Hi guys. Thank you
Hello,
for
everybody.
being here.
Yep.
Oh,
Thanks, Cesare, for being here, everybody. Barbara, David, and Marlene. My name is Carlos Siqueira. I'm the leader of the Tampa Architect Users Group. And today we have a CTA Tsezarii. I can't not pronounce his last name, but Tsezarii, take it away. And we're looking for your presentation.
sure, my pleasure. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you guys for being with me
You have to
here.
pronounce
And
your last name for us, though, at least once.
Zhydetskyi. You can practice it in your free time. But
Polish?
yeah, I go. It is Polish. Yes, it is Polish.
Okay.
Last name. Yeah, first name as well. So I go by name Caesar. Yeah. So today's topic is why the best architects struggle with the journey to CTA, and being CTA myself, completing the journey last year, I observed a lot of people during the journey and on their journey that were one of the best people in the industry, best architects that I know, and they had some challenges. So the pattern that I have observed and why I compiled this presentation is it seems that the more experience you have on a platform, the more the higher is the likelihood that you will struggle with the journey. It might not pass it from the first try. And in this architect group, I think you guys, you are interested in becoming CTA at some point, or maybe are playing with that thought. So it's it's important for you to understand the potential hidden pitfall that might not be so obvious. So having said that, let me introduce myself a little bit better. I completed my journey in 2021. Currently, I'm working as an enterprise architect in oil and gas industry in Houston, Texas at the moment. Also father of a 1 year old boy, a husband, and in my past life, I was professional archery trainer and sportsman. So yeah, so I've been many countries, done a lot of things, and short agenda for today. First of all, I'll speak about the exam, a little bit what you might have missed, or if you're interested in something that is not so obvious. So I try to compile this presentation really condensed, so not a lot of text, more conversational topics, and something that you might or might not have heard before, but that's more my experience with the technology and with the journey that I wanted to share, and maybe you will find at least something for you in there that you might use in practice. So I will try to be as close to the practicality of the exam as possible and to complete the journey, right? The ultimate goal is to complete the journey. Then the actual challenge, right? The hidden pitfalls and something that might wag you off even so you are technically really good. So I'll speak a little bit about that. And also on exam day, a lot of times people crack during the exam because the exam is really exhausting. It's somewhere between 7.5 and 9 hours total time if you account for all the breaks, all of the interruptions. It might go into 9 hours, and during that 9 hours you need to keep your concentration level high. You should be able to maintain the same level of proficiency and speed and focus throughout all 9 hours, as if you are during your preparation time that takes 6 to 9 months. So also the pressure is high because it's a lot at stake. Road to success, I will share some tips and tricks on how to approach the exam and maybe make it a little bit easier for you to consider it as something which can be done and is doable, achievable target for you. And then for summary, we'll speak about what you will like to focus. So if you don't have much time, as many people in this group, you can just watch the summary, take away 5 bullet points, and it will be enough. So, exam overview. When you try the new thing, you need to read the instruction how to use it. Better you read it before you break it. A lot of times people read it once something is broken. So CTA, as a Salesforce Technical Architect exam, has also an instruction. It is in the trailhead. And it's really important that having all the information in the world, you still stick to the master, to the source. And a lot of things that is written in the instruction is actually giving you away the secret key to cracking the exam. So the Salesforce architects, which also the aim for CTA, are serving as the trusted digital advisors and team leaders in the ecosystem. They think big picture, but also can solve problems in depth. And they are designing systems for anything, right? With having a Salesforce-centric focus. The CTA, they solve complex, large-scale customer challenges, which has to be solved in secure, scalable, and high-performance way to maximize the full potential of the Salesforce platform. It's really important to really dig into this definition. So most trusted digital advisors means that you can answer almost any question on the platform on the fly. And if you don't have an answer, you don't give a bad answer, right? So during the exam, you will encounter some of the situations that you will be pressed for an answer that you just don't have. So you need to act as a most trusted advisor, and you know when to say I don't know, or when to say I need to dig deeper into this. You also need to be the leader, right? So you need to lead the solution. You need to think big, but also be able to drill into the problem during the exam that seems to be that for you seems to need to have a little bit more attention. And all of this is important because you can't really during the exam if you have not studied too well, you have around 15 pages of a scenario, and you have around 3 hours to solve for the scenario, and then 45 minutes to present. So 3 hours is not a lot for 15 pages, because in 15 pages you have around 75 to 90 different problem statements that you need to solve during the exam. And for each problem statement solution, you will be scored with a score. And if you don't achieve a critical mass in one of the 7 different domains of the Salesforce architecture, you will not pass the full exam. So in order to pass, you need to solve all 7 domains in the given amount of time. And you need to know when you need to be specific and when you need to be stay on the high level, be on the big picture. And also, you always need to solve for the scalability and security performance, and also with the focus in mind on Salesforce platform. A lot of times I've seen people that were great in their work. They, for example, choose another solution in Salesforce for some business problem, which is perfectly fine. But since it's a Salesforce Certified Technical Architect exam, you need to really put Salesforce in the forefront, in the focus of your solution. Also, you need to act on the executive level, meaning that when you present, when you solve for the technical challenge, you need to be really on the level of CTO to be able to understand. So you don't speak to a developer, you don't speak to an admin, you don't speak to a business person. You speak to the executive to help understand how your solution will help them solve their business challenges. Because ultimately, we are not here to solve some technicalities for the fun of it, but in order to bring some value. A lot of times I've seen that people being great developers, being great technical architects with a focus on technical side of things, they were lacking communication, they were lacking persuasion, the structure of a good speaker to hit the nail the exam. And that's one of the pattern I've seen with a lot of good architects that were really brilliant. They were MVPs in their domains. They were not able to really perform on the level of a speaker being good enough to speak to the C-level. Because ultimately, when you get the CTA certification, it means that you have a certificate from Salesforce confirming that you are able to speak inside the boardroom and selling multi-million projects. And if they think that you will not be able to handle the pressure of the boardroom, they will not give you that certification. Even so, it's called technical. You need to really focus on that soft skills and on that business aspect of the exam. So, in order to summarize all of this all I said before, you need to effectively communicate to C-level audience, and then therefore you need to structure your answer for that level of understanding and also expect questions in that regard. You also need to make sure that your solution will be not only the most effective and most scalable, but also ensure that it will be a project success. A lot of times people forget that, you have a solution and you start to solve, and then you say, okay, yeah, we need to have 50 quality assurance engineers. We need to have 200 developers to achieve this, right? But the client expects the solution to be done in 3 months or 4 months. They forget that actually you don't just solve for the sake of it. You try to also think for the client what is best for their business, especially if it's in the scenario. We also need to focus on the user experience. Salesforce is a great platform. One of the greatest things about Salesforce is their UI experience, and it's really flexible in its ways. So if you can, and you should provide the optimal user experience from the waiting time, from the integrations, you need to think ahead, walk an extra mile for users, so they will like to use your platform, and also that will increase adoption. So user experience must be in the forefront of your presentation, not the technical aspects of how you integrate, but really what will be the user journey through your system. You need to know what is Salesforce best practice, but also what are the limits and trade-offs of the platform. So thinking about, you first think about the limits, and then you think about the solution. Let me put it this way, because if you create the solution, especially during the exam, that will not be scalable, you need to go back and just rework the whole solution. So think about limitations and trade-offs. If you propose some solution, why not the other? Or if you propose, if you have a second solution in mind, explain why you considered the second option for this use case. Also, you need to be effective with your timing, not only during the preparation, but also during the presentation. When I was preparing for the presentation, I had a timer in my mind that I need to complete this section by the time I hit 3 minutes, this section by the time I hit 8.5 minutes. And I really went down to the level of seconds in order to be able to ace the presentation. You should not underestimate the pressure of the time running away while you are in a stressful environment presenting the solution. Overall, just a reminder, the CTA exam is quite expensive. There are not a lot of people that pass exam. It's unofficial, but the fail quote is quite high. It's about 50%. As far as I think it was numbers from years ago, but without quoting me, it's really interesting journey that you go through, but you need to also know
that's gotten better.
It's gotten better, yeah. So
it used to be 70% was the failure rate.
I've heard that number too, but I think it was from some time ago, but now it's getting a little bit better. And yeah, but still, right? There is something that the people keep failing, right? And those people are really good people, because if you get into this exam, then it's not an easy walk, right? You also commit a lot of financial funds into it and a lot of time to prepare. So yeah, that's to the last point. You should also be able to work good without the pressure, but especially under the pressure, you need to also be able to perform well. Also important is to know what is the CTA exam not about. So we know what is this about, what is it not about. So from the definition of the exam, we learned a lot. It's a C-level. It's a lot of a lot of things you need to consider. But unfortunately, it is not exactly about your ability to code and how well you are working in the development space, or how well are you on admin space even. It's also not about your understanding of how you can integrate Amazon Lambda function to solve a Salesforce challenge. It's good to have it as part of your solution, but it will not give you the exam if you shift your focus on the capabilities outside of the Salesforce platform. It's also your unique real life experience, or even your technical background, your past projects might not always be a good friend of yours. I would even advise disregard it if you want to start the exam and focus on what is the best practice really. Because you might have that experience because someone solved, I don't know, CPQ to solve for a challenge that would be, can be solved with just Service Cloud, right? And you were part of this project. Doesn't mean that it needs to be repeated again in the future. So check your experience, but also apply a healthy skepticism about your past projects and learn the best practices. Also, your experience in sales and pre-sales might not be, it's also a false friend, because a lot of times in pre-sales, you would sell a solution or Salesforce Cloud, any of the clouds, when it's around 40-50% match with the client requirements. For the CTA exam, in order to have some new license from Salesforce, you would really need to justify it with enough trade-off between the custom solution and something to buy, or you need to justify it with the client requirements. That, for example, if the client wants to complete the project really fast, then you can justify that for this requirement I might buy a CPQ license. Even so, you can get along without it by using just a Service Cloud license. But you have to be mindful that sales and pre-sales usually will not be, the CTA exam is much more dynamic, but also much more down to the actual needs of the client. So let's speak about what are the benefits of achieving the CTA credentials, or what are also the benefits of failing the CTA credentials, because there is a lot of benefits in even attempting that. So, and that gives away a little bit the reason behind. You need to always start with why are you doing this? And if you attempt CTA for the reason of better paid salary or position after you achieve it, or you want to self-fulfill, you already have a CTO title, or you are an MVP and you want to be a CTA just to prove that you can, that's not the good reason for your motivation. And I'm not saying that it's not a good reason for, to strive for. Absolutely, the financial aspect, the pride in achieving this, it's absolutely perfect reason why you want to try it. But if it's your main driver, then it will be really hard for you to successfully complete your journey, because it puts a lot of pressure on you. And you need to remember that the journey to CTA is around at least 9 months, and also the exam day, it's really stressful. And if you have that weight of, okay, I need to achieve the CTA to get, I don't know, 50K more per year, and if I don't achieve that, then I will not have that money, it's not the right motivation. You will really struggle with finding your sweet spot and your peace of mind during the exam date. So it's better to focus on the real benefits from the journey. First of all, you meet a lot of great people that will become eventually your friends. Now, going to Dreamforce next month, I have a lot of people that I know from my preparation for CTA, and it's expanded my network inside the Salesforce ecosystem dramatically. And especially, there are really good people. You go through a lot of challenging questions with them. You are solving a lot of technical, interesting technical challenges. You have a really different level of connections rather than just knowing someone by having a drink at a bar. They're really talented people. So usually people that try to achieve CTA, you're talking to people that are at the group more intelligent than you. So you benefit from the group intelligence as well. You will definitely start waking up early. So my schedule went from waking up at 8 to waking up at 5. And I was consistently waking up at 5 to have that morning hours for 2 hours to work on the most important part of my day, which was the Salesforce presentation, Salesforce preparation. And that also a good achievement, because if you continue with that approach, you can achieve many other things in life. You will also learn how to fail, and it's one of the most important part, because you will fail a lot in your life, much more than you might want to. But the skill of failing and then getting up from the ground is really something that will define your success in the future. Any questions, guys, at this point to what is CTA exam about? Anything that you want to ask about the concept of the exam?
Not for me, but I think it's a very realistic, experience of yours.
Right. Maybe a question to you: is anyone currently pursuing the CTA journey actively, or considering the journey in the future?
Considering.
Yeah,
Okay.
considering as well.
Yeah, I'm getting my systems architect right now, and CTA is next.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So if you have any questions around, the format, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I would move on to the next point, which is the challenge. Actually, the challenges during the exam and during the journey. So now let's get to the point why the best architects, and I consider the best technical skilled people, have higher chance of failing the exam rather than someone that is maybe have less experience on the platform, but has an open mind to learn and to make the next step. The reasons for falling, there are many more than this, but I identified those from speaking to real people that unfortunately failed the exam or failed the preparation, that I consider to be great and at many different things. So first of all, as we spoke about the goals, there might be a wrong goal, especially if the goal is not about the financials, but about the self-fulfillment, okay? If you know that you're great and you need to have this certificate to prove it, don't even start it. There are many other ways to prove that you're great at what you're doing. Second, too much self-confidence. People are great, they know it, but if they're too self-confident about the level of their preparation, it might play a bad joke on them, because as I mentioned before, your past experience, even so you might have worked in many successful projects, might not be relevant for the actual exam, because for the exam you need to really rethink and recheck all your premises. You would read a lot of white papers. So I think during my preparation I read around 60 white papers, being like 60 to 100 pages each. When you think about Experience Cloud, you have the guide, Experience Cloud guide. I would have it as a PDF, and I would read through that PDF many times to nail the topic of Experience Cloud, to nail the topic of the shared encryption, etc. So you need to really start from the basics, check what you know, and improve on that. Third, they might not have known what CTA exam is about. A lot of times people assume that it would be a more challenging Dev 2 certification, right? In Dev 2 certification, you used to have a coding challenge. You would be asked a lot of times on the coding best practices, and people assume if I know that, if I was able to get through the Dev 2, I'm probably ready for the CTA exam. Unfortunately, you need to really be on the C-level side of the journey, and in order to really pass the board of 3 very experienced judges that are CTAs themselves, that sit through the presentations many times a year, and also that are managing these projects on a day-to-day basis, right? So you need to really convince them that you can join their club. It's not that you can convince, you can convince your peers. Convincing the judges is another aspect. Fourth, a lot of them went into analysis paralysis. There are a lot of things that you need to consider while constructing your perfect solution for the scenario, and usually you don't have time to consider all of the aspects of your answer, and you need to learn how to answer some of the questions mostly intuitively. It needs to be your second nature. So if you, like, when I was preparing for the CTA, I was able to, if someone would wake me up at 3, I would be able to give them the best integration solution for each of the scenarios. Same for the authentication flow, SAML, OpenID Connect, etc. Right? So you really need to be able to deliver an answer without thinking about that, and that's really a difference between someone that knows the stuff and someone that knows and is ready to complete the challenge. Fifth, not able to handle the pressure. A lot of times, people, a classical example would be, there is a lot of pressure and you need to be ready to make mistakes because you can't really deliver a perfect presentation. I think on my side, when I was presenting, because I was ready to deliver presentation with mistakes, my presentation was really good. I was able to pass from the first try, but a lot of times people would miss a requirement, and actually my presentation happened. I missed one complete requirement, but I was ready for that. So I was ready that I will probably miss one, important part of the scenario, and I was able to solve it on the fly, right? It didn't wake me off. A lot of times when, it happened to good people, that judges told them, well, how did you solve for this 2 points, right? And you really need to solve for it and then check all of your previous solution if you don't hit any limits with this new requirement. If your solution is still secure, still scalable. So you need to really go back and revisit all of your solution, all 7 points, giving that this is a new requirement that you might have missed. And some people were not prepared to make this change. They were pressed on time and they failed because they lost confidence. Last is the most important part. A lot of good architects didn't make enough mistakes on their way to the journey, right? Because they're good. So if you're good, you think, okay, well, I'm good, therefore I'm not making a lot of mistakes. But mistake is part of the success. If you don't do mistake, you cannot grow, right? And if you consider CTA, you definitely will grow from where you are right now. And growth and mistakes goes hand in hand. Right, next, on the mistakes part. New candidates would expect the journey to CTA would be like, okay, I made a mistake, I failed, therefore I quit. There's nothing I can do, right? I failed. I don't want to be there. I don't want something to be hitting on my head because it's unpleasant. Knowing that you need to lower your self-esteem, you need to lower your self-confidence every time you're doing a mistake is hard. It's hard on your mental readiness. It's hard on your psychological readiness. It's hard on your day-to-day job because you know that. For me, for example, I woke up at 5. I had my learning session until 7. I went to the work. I worked until 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And I knew that I had 2 sessions ahead of me that people will be grilling me on stuff that I might not know. And they will be really hard on me because they want to simulate with me how the actual exam will be. And, I had to say every day, I don't know. I need to get back with you tomorrow. And then at 5 a.m. I woke up and I read on stuff that I was not knowing the previous day, and therefore I was better. So it's mostly like this, right? You don't even do a mistake once, you mostly dance on your mistakes. And if you, once you start enjoying the process of really checking your knowledge and your readiness to grow every day, that's when you know that you're ready to tackle the exam. And you know, obviously it's harder for someone who is really good in their career, in their domain. Best of our people, best of the architects might not want to repeat all the mistakes again that they did in the past to get where they are, but it's a necessary step for the CTA journey. For the exam day, people crack under pressure, and there are few reasons why, but unfortunately, exam day is one of the things when you can have a good run for 12 months, 15 months, 2 years, and then one day you had a bad day before, you might not get enough sleep, something happens, and you cracked, and it's done, and you need to repeat it all over again. So what can we improve, and what are the reasons why people crack? The fear of failure. We go back to your premises, why you want to become a CTA. If you want it for the monetary reasons, if you want it for the fame, new position, then your fear of failure will be much higher than for someone that is doing that because they like the journey, right? Also, second, undermining your own value. If you are a CEO at a big company, right, not passing a CTA, for example, but when you are a manager to 2 other people that already passed the CTA, might put a lot of pressure on you, and you might think, okay, if I didn't pass, that it means that I have less knowledge than other people that passed. It's not true. You might have again a bad day. You might have again a particularly difficult scenario that you need to improve on. So do not think that success or failure of the CTA exam day will define your value as a Salesforce professional. It does not. And I encourage you to watch the video and put in the link. It's a TED talk that no matter how hard you will be beaten or what people speak about you, it should not undermine your own value, because it's not an indicator of your value. Third, lost energy on the work of worrying. So when you prepare for the CTA, you are worried about many things. You're worried about your internet connection, your remote desktop control, if it's working fine or not. What will be the scenario? If you will know the stuff, you will not know the stuff. I don't know, power outage can happen, right? A lot of things can happen, and that's all put the pressure on you, and it's an actual work. Being worried about the preparation, the actual exam date, what happens after you complete the journey, what happens if you fail the CTA exam, it would be terrible, right? That is all worrying, and it has its own burden. It takes a toll on your inner energy to achieve something good. Last but not least, the due diligence is meditation, relaxation, and physical preparation. If you neglect those, you have really less chance of passing the exam, and should be part of you can't really skip on them. Meditation, once a day, twice a day. Remember, it's a marathon. You don't run a sprint. You can't really prepare for 2 months. Go there, perform, be done. Never, ever happen. I don't know any of the candidate that would, that would achieve that in the first sprint way. It's more, you need to check, you need to really take it as a journey. And you will have much more benefit if you take it as a journey, because you will know that you can achieve, if you achieve this goal in your journey, you can achieve anything else, which might take more time. For example, starting your own business or having children, right? It's a lot, and meditation must be one of your due diligence items. Relaxation and learning how you can relax, how you can brush off the worrying about something must be your skill that you need to apply to your tool set, your toolbox. In physical preparation, you need to exercise. You need to exercise every day because your mind and body is one thing. It's one piece. And especially during the exam date, you need to sit idle for 7 hours. You have one chance, maybe two, for the toilet break. You have two chances for toilet break, right? You have to be clear. You have to be focused. If you don't exercise physically, it will be really hard for you to go through that challenge. So your body needs to help you, and it helped me a lot because, like, when I prepared, I put a rack where I could make a pull-ups just right next to my desk. And by the time I had my CTA exam, I was able to make 25 reps, pull-ups. When I started the journey, I was able to do 2. And even if I would not pass the exam, I would still have my physical condition as a benefit of having that exam. So there are small steps, small achievements along the way that you need to really collect to feel good about the challenge. Any questions at this point?
Something silly, but I know you just said that you got 2 bathroom breaks. Really? What about food? What about water? It seems like that wouldn't be particularly healthy.
Right. Yeah, it is. And remember, you can have food and you can have water while you are preparing. So when you go into the preparation mode, right, you start with the exam and the preparation for the exam. It's 3.5 hours for non-native speakers and 3 hours for native speakers. For 15 pages, it is enough to read through exam 2 or 3 times total, right? While this time, you need to prepare around 12 pages of the presentation, and you need to solve business requirements on 10 pages. So you need to prepare the artifacts. You need your presentation to look good. You need to do all of that. While doing that, you might have some food and might have some water, but you will have only one break of 50 minutes when you can leave the room inside the 3-hour window. If you need to leave the room before, or after, it will not be allowed, so you will fail. So you can. I took the break after 2 hours, and then after 1.5 hours, you have a break of 15 minutes again, when you then go into the presentation. And then I think, yes, you would have the presentation, and then after presentation, you have another 10 minutes break before the judges will start asking you questions, right? And it's another 45 minutes. But still, 3 hours, one break in 3 hours, it might be challenging for you. You don't know what happens to you. So I had to plan my whole day ahead. What will I have for breakfast? Will my breakfast be too heavy or too light, right? Which time? I took dry fruits. I took a lot of nuts. I didn't eat much. So you really need to have scientific vision how your body will endure this challenge, because you need your body to solve for the challenge. Because you know that you will have stuff that you don't know up front, and you need to be creative, and you need to really go through a stressful environment. So does it make sense? Does it answer the question with the breaks and yeah, how it gets onto you during the exam date?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I was wondering if one could ask clarification questions. I know that there's probably many areas where you need to make assumptions, and I think that part of overcoming the pressure is being confident enough to assume correctly. But let's just say that there's something that could be assumed in various different ways. Are you allowed to ask any clarification questions?
You're not. It's urine in the exam, and I know people that would fail because they didn't understand the requirement properly, or because their language skills were not good enough. So I know some people complained that the language used in the scenario was so specific to, have some jargons in it, like application sunset, right? I know sometimes people, if you're not a native speaker, the sunset might mean nothing for you, right? But it actually means that the application will be retired. But they don't write it in that language. You need to really assume that there will be some ambiguity about the scenario that you need to overcome, and you don't know what, but definitely it will be something that you will not understand, or you will not make a right assumption on, but you need to still make an assumption to the best of your knowledge. Because the CTA challenge is really, you can compare it with if you run a company and you happen to hear about some project that you have requirements about, and you have just one shot to convince the CEO that they need to hire your company for this challenge. You don't have any questions to ask back, and you just need to be as good as you can, because you will not have a second chance, right? It's a CEO level, at the C level, you have just 45 minutes to present, and that's a real world scenario, right? I do a lot of presentation to C level. Usually I get 15 minutes. If I have 45 minutes, it's a lot, right? So you need to really nail it down and convince people in that small time window.
Great, thank you.
So this is my ignorance of how things may have changed. I never knew they would do these remote. They always were in person. I was under the impression it was 2 hours, it was 10 disciplines, and then you had 45 minutes for presentation, and then they could ask you questions for 15 minutes after. Is that structure changed a little bit?
No, I don't think it was. Maybe it was like this years ago when you had two parts. So in the past, you had one part where you presented your own solution that you worked on, and second part where you had, I think you had the scenario that you needed to solve. So maybe that was from that days. But now you have 3 hours for the presentation, 45 minutes for the 3 hours for the preparation, 45 minutes for the presentation, and 45 minutes to answer any questions.
Okay. So they tweaked it a little bit. So it went from 2:45:15 to 3:45:45.
Exactly. And I think it's a little bit different if you're a native speaker or non-native speaker. So you might, you get more time if you're not non-native speaker, and for native speakers it's even tougher, because I think it cuts your presentation time to 30 minutes. So it's really short amount of time. So you need to check, because this changes from year to year, but usually yes, it's the scenarios are also a little bit getting a little bit longer, because the intent is to more use cases. So Salesforce has more different acquisitions over the years, right? With Slack, with Tableau, other stuff. So they want you to consider other technologies as well. So
more products.
More products, yeah. Okay, any questions? Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to the actual approach. That's actually not the challenge, it's actually how to approach the challenge. So first of all, a lot of things are turning around the procrastination. So important question is that we all are procrastinating on something, right? So we put off hard stuff and we focus on stuff that we know. And it is important to see your own pattern, how you procrastinate, and how you can really start producing and start tackling the thing that you are not so confident in. So first of all, what is procrastination? It is neurotic behavior that is unnatural for healthy individuals. So we should understand that procrastination is not natural. We all do that, but it's not a natural thing. Why we procrastinate? First of all, it makes sense. We all know that sometimes problem goes away on its own. You all had to do some homework and that end up being canceled, or someone else did that, or something has changed. You didn't have to actually show your homework, but so you procrastinate about doing that, and hopefully it goes away. It doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it makes sense. Second, it protects your ego and self-worth. You can always say that, yes, I unfortunately failed this time, but it was because I didn't have enough time to complete this task. If I would have more time, then I would be much better. So you never actually show your maximum performance. So let's say CTA exam takes 9 months, you try to do it in 3, you failed. You know that, okay, given more time, you might be successful. If you would give all what you can for nine months and you would still fail, means that you really cannot do any better. Means that you are reaching your limits, and you don't want that. Subconsciously, you don't want to really put yourself in a trial that you cannot really recover from. Third, if you are already low on energy, the procrastination will protect you from burning through your reserves. And the more you push yourself toward something that you know that you already are exhausted, the worse it will be. So it's also important strategy to not really, well, if you feel that you cannot tackle something, first thing to do is not to try harder. It's first thing is to stop and to relax and to take some time for you. And then the solution a lot of times comes naturally back to you. So if you are exhausted, don't try. That's also one thing that I used to do a lot is to try harder, just spend more time on the problem. A lot of times it doesn't work. Also, planning is part of the problem. A lot of times, more a problem than a solution. When I approached CTA, and I was part of the Flow Republic from Seb Wagner, and Seb has a really structured way to plan your journey, to plan your performance improvement over time. I was not able to really follow the instructions, honestly, because when I started to plan, it looks so bad. It looks so, so much work that I just procrastinated on that. So instead, I started to produce. Instead of planning to achieve something, I started to make weak presentations. I started to make bad presentations. But I was making the presentations for the actual mocks. And I received a lot of criticism, but I was able to improve. If I would wait for the time when I was really good at the CTA stuff before I do the first mock, I would never be able to really have the critical mass of the tried mocks before appearing for the exam. And the magic number is at least 40 mocks. You need to really go through 40 different presentations in front of the group of people before you really can appear for the exam and be confident in having a chance. I think for me it was 60, but 40 would be the minimum. Then second is you need to accept the worst possible outcome, which would be a failure. Genghis Khan, his Mongol leader, he said, if you're afraid, don't do it. If you do it, don't be afraid. So really, while you are in action, you should not think about what you know, what you don't know. You need to get through it. So it's not only on the exam date, it's also during the preparation. You will encounter many times that you feel that, okay, I don't know what I'm reading. I have this white paper. I feel like I don't know so much things, but you still need to keep reading. You still need to keep working through that, because that's how you learn, right? So while you are in process, you don't stop. And the worst thing is to start. So the start is the usually for people, starting point is the hardest one. While the people are already doing something, it's much easier to keep in motion that action. Last but not least is to change an inner role. Now you need to become a decision maker. So right now, a lot of times you think, okay, someone made me do that, or it was a bad decision, but I still need to stick to it. Instead, you need to accept your current role. You need to accept your current weaknesses and make a decision if you want to do it or not. And that needs to happen actually every day. When you sit at the table and you have these 2 hours in front of you that you really don't feel like doing today because it was 5 a.m. in the morning, you didn't have your morning coffee or anything, you need to make a decision. I'm doing this or I'm not doing this. And if your decision is not, I'm not going to do that, then it's fine, but it's your decision. If your decision is, yes, I am doing this, it's not like, I'm doing this, but I don't want to do this, right? Okay, I will stick for 2 hours with this task, but I don't really want to do that. Then you will feel much less energy that will flow into your work. So make a decision, and make a decision fast. Take control over your actions, over your next steps, not only in Salesforce, but it will help you a lot during your life. When you face some options that are not pleasant, no option is pleasant for you. Just make your decision and stick to it. Next is the success. How to practice a success without a system. Usually people consider CTA journey to be something that needs to be approached with a system. And I agree to that. However, myself, I'm not a systematic person. So I would rather have less system, but more action, more actual. I think there is some noise. Someone is not on mute. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Can you mute yourself, guys? Maybe.
Carlos, that's you.
Oh. I just don't see you. List. Okay, never mind. I think it's good. So again, I'm not a systematic person. The planning for me probably was more exhaustive than the actual preparation. So especially within the velocity that happens with you, you can't really put the life on hold, right? You have a family, you have work, you have your vacations. A lot of things happen. You might plan a whole weekend for the preparation, but at the end, you end up having just 2 hours. Accept it, take these 2 hours, make the most of it. Don't be stressed about not hitting your learning goals for this week. You will do better next week, but just don't hang up to that. Second, don't really try to stick to a system that is being proposed to you by someone, or someone that already achieved the goal can recommend you a system. Make the system work for you. If you know that you are disorganized, for example, in my case, I have a lot of things going on and I don't really want to focus just on one thing. I have a lot of things that I'm passionate about. Oh, yeah. That's my system. I structure my day around many different things, and I can achieve more by doing that. That's something that works for me. Find something that works for you, stick to it. Don't mind what other things. perfect is an enemy of good. Really important. Your presentation during the CTA exam cannot be perfect. Your knowledge cannot be perfect. Your communication skills cannot be perfect. You need to aim for good, not for perfect. Also, with velocity during the exam, with a lot of things that can go wrong, and they will go wrong, focus on good, not on perfect. And agility and progress, it's what you need to aim for. Be agile, and also be ready to adapt and adjust to the new reality. So in my case, I had to change my plans almost two weeks before the exam date. So I think it was 3 weeks before the exam. I was getting a chance to appear for exam, and I could accept it or I could not accept it. And if I would not accept it, it would be, I would need to wait for 3-4 months to get a second chance. So you need to accept that something sometimes is not going as planned. I think I can ping Carlos to go on mute.
You do that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Os relógios estão aí, cara. Eu não tenho visto nada. Consegui o relógio para minha irmã. Consegui, cara. Ele me ligou numa sexta-feira e falou assim, pô, olha, tem dois aqui, tem o de 34 e de 36 milímetros. Não, eu quero de 36. Quando chegou no sábado, eu posso ver o de 34? Não, já foi. Eu falei, você só deixar de 36, não, porque você disse que queria.
I wonder if Carlos edits this out before he uploads it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to call him.
Bom, eu acho que tu sabe que o mercado declinou um pouco, né, cara? Os preços baixaram, acho que, pô, não.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, your mic picks much more than
Including showers.
Including showers, yes.
Aquele verde, né? E é para quem é canhoto.
Thank you, David.
At this point, any question, guys?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned that you should practice on 40 to 60 mocks.
Mm-hmm.
Are these mocks that you kind of made up on your own, or are there that many out there that you can use?
Well, there are. I'm not sure how many there are. They released a couple more. You have Tamim Bahri has a great book on the preparation for the CTA. I think you will have around 9 mocks from that book. You also have a mocks for 602. That's like CTA readiness preparation, the past mocks that have been released. So you do have some chances to practice, and sometimes you can reuse the same mock a couple of times to practice, right? So it would be same mock but presented 3 times for different audiences.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Also, I think Ladies Be Architects has some mock-ups. I think they have a half a dozen or so.
Okay.
Right. And if you decide to join Flow Republic, they have quite a few mocks. A lot of times, members of the Flow Republic, they would release their own scenarios to work on. And sometimes I just came up with my own scenarios, right? And I thought about, okay, how would I, design a system that would support payment for multiple people? How would I design a system that would, I don't know, support, similar like in the mocks you have about the truck drivers, right? I would just extend that scenario with some other options that would be necessary, right? And when you go through around 20 mocks, you will see the pattern. It doesn't mean that you will have any of the patterns in your actual exam, but it means that you will know what to focus on more. Yeah, you will see where you struggle, and you would want to challenge yourself in that areas. Yeah. Any other questions?
I can ask another question. I'm not sure if this is out of place or not. But you know, creating system diagrams and data model and other artifacts during the CTA exam, you know, is obviously important. And so when you study and you did your practicing, were there any of those artifacts that you said, okay, that is one that I must do, must know it really well and be able to do it really, really fast, and you practiced it over and over and over again? Do you have a list of what those are that you can share?
Well, I mean, that I can talk through that, right? I mean, it's quite the obvious list, right? So you need to have a part of your, you know, the thing that can vary, introduction slides, etc. You might not have it, but system landscape needs to be part of your solution. Data diagrams need to be part of your solution. Potentially large data volumes, as well as your deployment and delivery strategy needs to be part of your presentation slides. So yeah, I mean, they need to be really, you need to produce them really fast. That's part of your job, right? That and yeah, I needed to practice it over and over again. I tried the PowerPoint. I tried to draw it by hand. I think I stick by drawing by hand, but you need to see what works for you, right? If you just draw it by hand, or you do the PowerPoints, you need to also try to make it work on the remote desktop. So yeah, that, you know, and that means also that you need to be really agile. I think I switched from trying to make it in Google Docs to draw it by hand, because right now we use Google Docs, right? They give it to you like a blank piece of presentation Google Docs, and then you need to work on it through a remote desktop, or you can draw it by hand. And I switched to drawing by hand like 2 weeks before the actual exam. So you need to really see what works for you, and if it doesn't work, you need to quickly change it, and don't really look back. It's part of your challenge. And yes, I was practicing drawing them really fast. I think.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Carlos is back. Carlos, are you here?
Yeah, sorry, I had to take that call. One question that always comes to mind, if you ever heard a case where the person, you know, presenting to the board knew more than the people on the board.
Sometimes it happens. Doesn't matter. It's possible, but you need to satisfy the board, and it happens in real life.
Yeah, I know people on the board that they have a good experience. They, of course, they are CTA and stuff, but I know people outside that they are CTAs as well, and they have way more experience.
Possibly, yes.
So because you have that experience, and you might say a solution, and somebody might say, no, that's not right, and you say, no, it is right because this, and that.
Then you'll fail, because CTA exam is a C-level exam. You don't go to a CEO and say, oh no, you are wrong, I'm right. You need to listen to me. That is part of the challenge, right? Again, CTA is someone that can present Salesforce for a multi-million project to a C-level board of client, and the client needs to like it. They should like your presentation. Not just your technical reasoning, but also your presentation, your personality, your style. A lot of times it can be a challenge, right? They can even try to trick you and say, okay, I don't like this piece of your solution. Can you change it? And then they will see how you react. It's also part of the challenge. It's not about being right on technical side. It's about owning your solution. Not even soft skills. It's about being confident it's about performing well. It's your performance and your performances overall. Communication is part of 7 domains that they test. So solution design is one of 7. You might be wrong on the solution design. You might be right in the solution design. But if you don't nail the communication, you will not pass the exam.
Question: is that meant to show your collaboration skills? Like, perhaps, you think this is the right solution. The board may not like it or may see a different way. Is it to test how you can collaborate and compromise? Maybe compromise is a better word, on a solution that works for everybody.
Yes, a lot of times it is. So sometimes, like, there are 2 options, right? You can go left and right, and you, from your experience from the last article that you read, you know that, okay, you think that this is a solution to go, right? And then you present the solution to the board, but the board didn't read the last article, didn't check the last release notes on the flow, whatever, right? So they didn't have the same status that you have, and they say, okay, can you think about a different solution? Then you might ask this question, what do you have in mind? Can you explain which part would you like to focus on, maybe? Or maybe you can also say, yes, of course we can also do this. Should this solution be not working well, we have this solution as the backup. And they always ask you about what is your final solution. You can't really have 2 solutions. You need to have 1 solution, right? And then it's up to you if you can read their minds, if you can, because you see their faces. You need to really be able to understand what they're trying for you to say, and yeah, and then it's up to them if they like it or not. A lot of things you can't really control, and I'll speak about this a little bit later. Does this answer your question? Do you have any?
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of things, it's out of your control. I have a slide about that. It's really good. You'll like it. So moving on. One thing that you can do is to get 120% of your brain when you actually need it. When I went to the board, I performed at the best level ever. Like, out of 18 months, it took me 18 months to go through all the preparation and the actual exam, and it was the best presentation out of 60. My review board presentation, and then I reflected on my experience, and I saw what really worked well for me, why I was able to achieve more in a stressful environment rather than when I was in training. So first of all, when I prepared, I really motivated myself by success, not by failure. So when you think about trying to achieve something, you can think, okay, I need to do this because if I fail, it would be terrible, right? You should really focus on your positive emotions. You need to try to motivate yourself that, okay, when I achieve the success, it will be wonderful. Don't think about the failure. Don't motivate from the negative. Motivate yourself from the positive. It works better on your body, on your mind, on yourself. Second, your goal should be to get your unique personal experience from the journey. My unique personal experience was I had a great last presentation. If I would fail it, it would be still a great last presentation. It would be the best presentation that I would ever have. That's great, right? I might not control the outcome, but I know that I want this experience to happen to me, and I can choose to be stressed about the outcome of the presentation and to be worried about if the judges like my suggestion, my presentation, if they understood my solution well, or I can enjoy myself in that presentation and present the best I can. Also, you need to deal with agility and setbacks during the preparation. Just a feedback. You will receive a lot of feedback from your group. You will receive a lot of feedback while you make mistakes. And also with agility, I think Carlos was speaking on the phone. I didn't tell my story fully. So my personal story was that I received a note that I can go to the board in 3 weeks, or I can wait for unknown time. And usually they give you 2 months before the actual review board date because they want you to prepare. Okay, I didn't have that choice, and I hope that I will have at least 2 months. By the time I received that note, I was on vacation on Mallorca. My wife was on 7 months of pregnancy, and in my coaching program with Flow Republic, you have 6 mocks with the coach to receive a feedback. Out of 6 mocks, I failed 4. I failed actually 3, and then before making a decision, yes or no, I tried it. I failed the 4th mock, received answer that it was, the feedback that was not enough for the full pass. It would be a maximum of a partial pass. Still decided to go. And then over the course of 3 weeks, I was able to improve. So my last mock with SAP was my best mock during my, out of 6. It was also the most challenging mock. So I felt good about the progression, and I was able to transfer it to my actual exam date. So if you're not ready, or you feel like I don't know a lot, it doesn't really matter. If you still have some runway, you see the progression, you see the trajectory. If the trajectory is up, if you feel like you still can do the last push, go for it. On the exam date, you need to really be present. You need to forget about your past experience, even if you failed all of the mocks. I know one guy, he actually passed the CTA exam. He failed all 6 mocks with SAP, and he still went for it, and he nailed it. Then also you need to be really efficient and think through the process. As I mentioned, when you wake up, when you go to bed the day before, when will be your exam, in the morning or in the afternoon? If your exam is in the afternoon, then you want to set your mocks before in a similar time, so you know your body is tired up until 4 p.m. Then you probably need to adjust your schedule so you will be on your peak performance during the day, during the time you need that performance for the CTA exam. And yes, giving up is not an option. When you are in motion at the exam date, don't give up. Don't think that you have this really tough scenario, so you need to just hang up and say, okay, guys, I will not make it. Fight until you make it. So, can you see my screen? Last one.
Yes.
Yeah, I will try to play the video, and I'm not sure if you heard the sound.
We'll let you know. Nope.
Can you hear? No, you don't hear it. Well, then I encourage you to watch this. That's Bryan Cranston advice on inspiring actors. It's 1 minute 22 seconds. One of the best advices that I get, and it's really worth your 2 minutes of your time.
Yeah. Can you share the link on the chat?
Maybe later, because I don't want to close my presentation.
Sure.
You can Google Bryan Cranston advice to aspiring actors.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
There you go. I posted it for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. What can I move? Yes. The summary of the presentation is this: the things that matter. You need to have a safe environment to make mistakes. You need to trust your training group. You need to trust your partner. You need to have that credibility from, for example, especially from your family, that you have the time to try it out. And if you fail on the exam, it will be not the end of the world. You will recover. They will support you. I know people that have families that have failed CTA 3 times already. and they keep trying. And some people fail CTA 8 times. I think it was the most that I know about. 7 failure, 1 pass. So you need to have that energy to keep going even after you fail, and that motivation. It's really important. If you have the energy just for 1 try, then probably you should not even try it, because it will be wasted time. Second, procrastination is normal, and it's not that you need to fight it. You need to deal with that, and you need to make it work for you. That's what I was able to make. I found the reasons for my procrastination, and I worked on those reasons, and I was able to really nail it on the day when I needed it the most. Don't hang up to one system. Choose a system that works for you and only you. We all are humans. Also, from my experience, I know a lot of people that pass the CTA. No one is the same. Everyone has unique personality. Everyone has a unique skill set that this personality characters brought them to where they are. But point is, we are all different and we have different strengths. So there is no one system that will work for you. Don't even try. If you find your system, it will be through trial and error. And don't be afraid to change it. Don't set it in stone. If you have a system for 9 months and you need to change it 2 days before the exam, just do it. It will be your journey. You make a decision. If you feel like doing that, you are in charge. You are chief executive officer of your CTA journey. You need to focus on positive experience, and you need to try to have the best experience that you can have. Like in my case, after the exam, it was around 8 hours for me total. We went out for a dinner, and on that day, that dinner tasted particularly good. And I still remember the dinner. I remember the positive feeling after the exam. I don't remember the stress during the exam or during the preparation on the day before. And that positive experience needs to stick with you, because that will be something you will remember years ahead. So try that to be as positive as possible. That's your experience. Make it as good as possible. And lastly, if you do it, don't give up. Don't be afraid. It's not an option. Just don't take it as an option. Be yourself and give it really a good try. Questions? That was my last slide.
Awesome insight. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you. My pleasure.
Yep. Great session.
How many times did you fail before you passed?
I passed from my first try, and mainly because but almost all of good architects that I know, that I really learned from during my journey, they passed from the second try, or they're still in the journey.
Cesar, there was a link that you shared in one of your slides. Is that the same link that you were trying to play?
No, it was a different one. And that link it's on the
This one.
Try not to lose the value.
It was one past that.
Yeah, I think that.
No, the other way.
The other way. Oh yeah. Sorry.
There you go.
You see my screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How to not take things personally. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Any questions, guys?
Just a question. I know you mentioned that you were prepping in your, when you were prepping, how did you find your groups? Was that part of the company you're working with? How did that work?
Yeah, so I joined Flow Republic. So there is a big value of joining Flow Republic, because you have access to a lot of people that are pursuing the same goal that you. And when I joined, I think there were 6 groups that were in different stages of the journey, and you are able to join any of them. But usually you work within your group of 8 people, and yeah, that's how you find more connections. And also there is, I think Melissa, that she presented. Not the last time, but
Right. She has a Slack group.
She has a Slack group. You can join that Slack group. She has also good tips and tricks. You can contact her. She's really approachable. That would be another option. But most of the people that I know, they would pass from Flow Republic. Lately, I don't keep track on but it definitely, you can do it on your own if you have a good company. If you work for consulting companies that have their own CTA academy, I think that would be another option.
Do you know approximately what the cost is of Flow Republic?
Oh, well, you need to check. I think it would be around $5,000,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. I think you need to check. They have also different options. You can, I know, you can approach SAP if you're interested. I can establish a contact because he can offer you just his evaluation of of your skill set. Usually, he evaluates you before joining the Flow Republic, because if you are not ready, he would tell you that you're not ready.
Yeah, I'm planning on finishing my 2 certs for system architect this year. And then I'm either going to go for B2C or I'll start focusing on CTA, but definitely CTA in the next 12 to 18 months is my plan. So I'm not ready right now, but definitely it's one of the questions I have. I've always worked on the client side. I have worked on fairly large enterprise projects, but because I've been on the client side, the breadth of experience I've had is not as broad as other people. So
that's fine. I mean, again, your past experience, it is relevant, of course, because it's just defined the starting point. But if you're committed to that, maybe you can just take a little bit more time. In my case, it was 18 months, yes. And I spent, I think, more than 1,500 hours on just learning and the actual preparation and getting the mocks, etc. So you really need to be able, you need to commit at least 1,000 hours if you're really good into preparing for that.
great, thank you.
Of course. Okay. No other questions. I think it was definitely a pleasure for me to present to you, and I hope at least something out of the presentation would be applicable for you. Maybe not for CTA journey, maybe for any other journey in your career. Just approach it with the right respect to the challenge, and you'll learn a lot. And it's definitely worth trying to pursue CTA journey. It's a unique experience. I would say you don't have many options to get better experience in Salesforce ecosystem than trying to reach to CTA goal.
Great session, Tsezarii. Appreciate. You gave a lot of people always looking for technical stuff, and you pinpoint exactly the other things that you don't see. You just see the tip of the iceberg, but you nail pretty much what's behind in there, and the proof is that you pass first attempt. So really appreciate it. No, hey, anytime. Folks, if you don't have any more questions, I don't say give you back the time. It was time well spent. I put on the chat the Melissa Shepard's Slack, and I put a link here for the next event in 3 weeks. It will be September 7th. It's definitely something more technical, but it's an experience for Carl Brundage. He's a master architect with the Oda Siva, being around the ecosystem for a while. I think he's been a CTA for probably 4 or 5 years. And yeah, that should be a good one. Hope you folks, can attend. And any suggestions? I mean, you don't need to be a CTA to present here. So far, I've been lucky to have only CTAs coming forward. That's why since April we had this is like the 6th event. We got to the point that we are having 2 events per month, including this month. This is the second one in July. But if you know anybody, if you feel like, hey, I got what it takes to present for an architect group, by all means, let me know, and we book you and we go from there. All good?
Absolutely.
Have yourself a great week. Thursday and Friday and that, and let's keep in touch. I will put, as soon as I have this downloaded, I'll put it on the YouTube and share on LinkedIn, Twitter, and everywhere else.
Are you going to edit out your phone call?
Yes, as well. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Carlos.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Cesar.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the
Have a
time.
great week.
Same. Bye-bye.
Thank you.